Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. So today's video is going to be slightly longer. I want to discuss two things that I feel probably will be beneficial in the raid. One of them is something that I've taken a stance on from the first raid. I know a lot of the community disagrees with me, but I'll try my best to give my reasons. And, if you feel like my reasons aren't sufficient, you can counter my argument in the comment section. Do it as, detailed as you possibly can, or if you can't do it as detailed as you can, maybe, I don't know, when you get to a place where you can type a comment, you can type a comment regarding that. Now, the first one is the raid matchmaking. Now, the Operation Dark Hours has a matchmaking system in the raid, but it's only for the discovery mode. Now, people can use that to actually, get groups of people and then jump into the normal raid. But I don't feel like that was actually necessary, because if you look at the matchmaking system and you look at the LFG system, these are two systems where people can go to Discord servers, they can go and, hit up their friends and their clans, and they can all pair up for raids. Those systems are already there, and a matchmaking system directly into the raid just provides one more layer to allow for players to be able to find people in their raid group quite quickly. Another thing is there are a lot of players who are willing to actually carry people through the raids. Now, yes, some people may be more frustrating to carry than some other people. That is a valid argument, honestly. I've been in a raid where somebody stood in front of the computer, and we called the computers, and they were standing in front of one of them and literally did nothing because they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, literally, they pretended like they knew, and this was in an LFG group. I went into the Division 2's official server, and we found a group of people. We all jumped right in there. The whole group, we could not pass Boomer. I mean, you're talking to somebody, me, who has beaten about, I can't remember how many raids, 17, 27. Once I got my Eagle Bear, I was out though. But I've beaten over a dozen. I know exactly what to do, crud. But I saw a lot of people just doing everything they shouldn't do in the group. And this was from an LFG group. And I know many of you have probably been in those situations as well. But the situation that I'm trying to say needs to be mitigated is the fact that you can easily find people when you have a matchmaking system in the raid. And then there's also the side of being able to kick people, because if you are a raid party leader and you matchmake and people they don't have a mic, before you start that raid, then if that's your preference that they have a mic, then you can say, I'm sorry, you don't have a mic, then, please, would like to get somebody in here that has a mic. The same thing is also done in LFG groups as well. Somebody joins a Discord server and the raid party leader says, I need everybody to have a mic. And if somebody doesn't have a mic, they just apologize and say, hey, I'm sorry, man. If you don't have a mic, we'd like to be able to communicate with everybody. And, the person is removed from the party, or the person leaves. And so these practices are common practices within multiplayer co-op MMO type games that I don't feel needs to affect anything. And I know a lot of my friends disagree with the matchmaking system in the raid. They've even personally told me, like, yo, you don't even know what the heck you're talking about, man. They were mad at me in some cases. But the truth is, it's a system that I feel is going to provide a very solid, functionality for players. So I think Massive needs to implement this right out the gate. It doesn't need to be delayed like the other raid, or, like it was done in Operation Dark Hours. Now, to be honest, if they say we don't want to put a matchmaking in the raid, but we'll put a discovery mode, I think I'll be fine with that. The discovery mode can also be a way that people can actually get in and, pull groups together. But in my opinion, it's just a waste of development time. Just put the matchmaking in the raid and let players do it. Now, another layer of this same argument with the matchmaking system is, as many people had talked smack about the matchmaking possibility in the raid, there are so much more people who are using the matchmaking system to beat the hardest content in the game, which is the legendary missions. And many of them are even doing it with just common sense. Sure, the raid and the legendary missions are two differently designed, missions, or two differently designed aspects of the game. But you cannot deny the difficulty and the necessity for communication within a legendary mission. But there are many groups who go through these legendary missions because they have just enough people who are competent, knowledgeable about the game and the mission, who are capable of beating these missions without even saying a single word to one another. I'm not saying people are going to go into the new raid and not say a single word to one another, but we've also seen it in Operation Dark Hours, where people just go to, they know exactly what to do in a group. When you get to the airplane hangar, everybody knows that if you're in raid party 1, you go to side A, and if you're in raid party 2, you go to side B. this is general knowledge by now. If somebody's new and they don't get it, somebody can go in there and say, hey, yo, go to side B. You're in the second group. And, they just easily correct for those little, discrepancies between players who may be new, and people can move on. And I think, it just goes to show that sometimes we tend to forget that we were once noobs at systems before we got better. And I can understand, it's everybody's preference. If you want to, be more efficient, then you don't need noobs in your teams. But sometimes, you can concede to say, if somebody carried me at one point or showed me the ropes, I'm willing to show somebody else the ropes. But at least let that option be there in the game. Now, that was my first argument, or something that I would love to see. I guess I can hear your comments in the comment section. And the second thing I feel is going to highlight more the mechanics that come with this raid. Now, there is a mission in the Division 1. It's an incursion. It's called Stolen Signal. This is a mission with the Rikers. And this mission is actually so well designed in its mechanics, in the gameplay loop, synergy, enemy archetype weapons, and, functionality all over the place. This incursion, I think, was more like a raid than anything else. It was like a mini 4-man raid because of how well it was designed in the Division 1. Now, time has flown so far, but many of us may have forgotten how good and challenging Stolen Signal was. It had a lot of different aspects to it, but it really pushed entire teams of players to recognize exactly what they needed to be able to beat these things. If you watch my tutorial on how to beat it, I literally started that video with a scream, being happy on us beating it. I beat it once and I was like, man, I don't want to come back to this. Not because it was frustrating, but because it challenged me in a way that I enjoyed it. Does that make sense? It was like, okay, this is challenging enough for me to enjoy and play it once, but at the same time, I don't want to go through this harrowing experience because this was just something that really took my time. If I want to go in, I have to be prepared. I think this raid needs to show that kind of difficulty and challenge other than just a DPS check. Now, Operation Dark Hours made the attempt to allow for a more in-depth raid. Yes, Boomer is definitely going to be the check for you guys to see if you can work together as a team, if you can work together as a unit. Definitely so. But then the other bosses are basically going to just be pulling, your team's capability of how you can burst down enemies. I hope that the Foundry provides something much more than this. I hope it provides systems that we can actually enjoy, systems that will challenge you, systems that, will expand the and showcase the creativity that Massive actually has. This is the same studio, largely, maybe with some people here and there new or have moved around, that created Stolen Signal and how good it was. It is stuff like this that we would like to see. I mean, even though Stolen Signal was not my favorite incursion, it was still the best designed incursion in the game. Falcon Lost was a basic style incursion, but it is still my favorite. You also had Clear Sky, which was basically like a 9-minute type of incursion. But if a team didn't know what to do, they couldn't do it. But it was difficult. It was fun at the same time, but it was a synergy. Like the entire team had to be working in like this very close synergy. And you look at those systems and you're like, it wasn't necessarily all about the damage that you could deal, when it came to things like Clear Sky or when it came to Stolen Signal. In fact, Stolen Signal, whenever the boss change, there's a little sequence where the boss would change his color, and at that point you just didn't need to be damaging him. You needed to clear out of the way. And I think it's just like Buddy and Lucy. If you think about it, that system is being implemented in Buddy and Lucy. So I feel like the developers need to dig in deep. They need to make sure that there is the availability of people to be able to find players and get into these raids, and also allow for very solid systems to be available there in the raid, so just to provide enjoyment, so that it's something that you are willing to run 10, 20, 30, 40 times. And I guess on the back end, the loot has to be something that is worth your time. So there's something that I'm really scared of, that the raid will probably have a weapon that is not worth grinding for, just like the legendary missions. Because I remember one of the developers said in one of the State of the Games, we don't want to make the mistake that we made with the Eagle Bearer. And I think that is the reason that the bullhorn or whatever the name of that weapon is just not good. I think they purposefully made a weapon that will not cause a big ruckus within the community, so that you can basically play the legendaries only for the sake of playing the legendaries. But then the raid, I wonder what that will look like. And I think they're probably going to be silly enough to go add a raid chest where you get 5 raid keys, and then when you get 4 raid keys, and then you have to play the next week to be able to get a 5th raid key. Ugh, that will be terrible. So let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. I know I said I just wanted 2 things. I guess there are more things that I would probably like to see, but man, I'm hoping that Massive can deliver a solid experience, because even if they do, the game is still at a place where people still feel a lot of things are questionable. And if they don't, then man, it's going to be a very hard sell for a lot of people who own the game to come back and install it just for them to play a raid that will probably carry along a lot of the issues that the game can bring up. So I guess that's it from me. I'll get out of your hair. Thank you for your time and audience. Peace.